it's rough.
Is that like the face of the franchise?
Yeah. Face, yeah.
Not a fan of it. It's all right.
I got up to where
They didn't spend a lot of time on it now.
I got up to where I graduated high school, I think, and I think that's as far as I got. Or I got through college maybe, and you had to choose whether you were switching positions, and I switched positions and never played a single game. So I just don't care enough. But I like Madden. We had a league in Madden.
We had a bunch.
Channy and I do leagues pretty frequently in Madden.
We do like
play
a season or two, and after the second season, we're like, all right, let's start over and just have different teams, and we're just like, we had like 8 or 9 in the last time we played.
We have so many.
It was gross. It was so many.
I got fantasy football leagues and things like that I'm in, and I was in like an elimination league this year, which was interesting. That was a different take for me.
What's an elimination league? That sounds fantastic.
So instead of it being a traditional league, you had to pick a team every single week of the season, and if that team lost, then you were out for the rest of the season. Like, you're done.
What the heck?
But the thing was, once you picked a team one time, you could never pick them again for the rest of the season. So you had to be really strategic about, I couldn't just, take the Chiefs at the beginning of the season and say, well, I'll just stay with them the whole time. You wanted to try and save some teams for later on. I believe that the Titans were the team that took me out of the league. It was one of the weeks that I thought they would win, and they didn't get it done. And but it was fun. It was an interesting way of playing that I'd not tried before.
So intriguing.
Yeah.
Your dad is such a hater, Channy.
Yeah, he's different. Bad Bunny's gonna beat the Miz today, and we're gonna realize how good Bad Bunny actually is.
But here's the thing, though, and we'll get into this once we start in just a second. Let people filter in. The thing is, like, he can't lose. There's no reason that they bring him in to lose at WrestleMania. He has to win because it
happened to Goldberg twice.
When you look at that, and that's the thing that bothers me, because I want to just sit back and enjoy, but I understand that it's a business and it operates on storyline. So what is the best thing for the storyline? The best thing for the storyline is not Bad Bunny showing up at WrestleMania and losing. It's him showing up and winning, and it's going to push Damian Priest, who they just got up from NXT and they like a lot. So
he's good. Is that okay? And anybody can be in the WWE, bro.
I mean, you had a match. I'm pretty sure it was at WrestleMania. You had Floyd Mayweather against.
And he had no problem with that because Floyd Mayweather is his favorite person ever. I'll tell you what.
You get back to something like WrestleMania 11. You have Bigelow and Lawrence Taylor. Put on a very nice match. However, to that point, I would say that Bam Bam Bigelow was a much better worker than The Miz is ever going to be. So he could sort of help Taylor along to get to that match.
LT. His greatness is everywhere. NFL and going to WWE. He's got.
But yeah, no, I would say I'm concerned that the Bad Bunny match is probably going to be the second worst match on the card over the next 2 nights. I have very low expectations for the in-ring product there, but
second behind.
I get it. He's an international superstar, and they love having a celebrity in a match. I mean, it makes sense.
So you said second worst. So what is your opinion on the worst? Before we're gonna get there, but I'm interested.
Oh, I think that Shane McMahon Braun Strowman match is just going to be awful.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be awful.
How do you feel about the Sami Zayn and Logan Paul and Kevin Owens thing? I mean, those two historically have had great matches together. They work well together, but the addition of Logan Paul, I don't understand it, and it's just.
He's added to this?
He's there.
Oh my God.
He's like a special guest of Sami Zayn at the event.
I don't like Sami Zayn. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like him.
Yeah, this is one of those areas where I feel like I show my age a little bit, because Logan Paul is one of those people who, other than the fact that he knocked out Nate Robinson, really didn't know who Logan Paul was.
That was Jake. Jake knocked out Nate Robinson.
Oh,
Logan fought KSI.
You're right.
Neither one of them are interesting. Is really all that you need.
Don't
to know.
care. Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, I understood that he was famous on YouTube, and that that was a big deal, but I mean, I really knew nothing about the guy. Clearly, I never know less about the guy than I thought I did. But so I mean, his inclusion to me was, it was neither here nor there. I mean, to me, it's Kevin Owens and it's Sami Zayn, and they fought 1,000 times in 100 different locations. Yep. And they're not going to allow themselves to have a bad match
in a million different promotions. So they're everywhere.
I mean, I think they could do it with their eyes closed and their hands tied behind their backs and still have a pretty decent match.
They probably haven't done that blindfolded, one hand tied behind their back match. It's been a while since we've seen one of those, although there definitely have been numerous of them. So nothing is a surprise anymore, really.
The blindfold match may be my least favorite match in all of wrestling.
I think that is, for me, second to the one, like they do it at Christmas a lot. The one where they have the stuff hanging up the side of the
nice
blindfold or something involved in that match too. It's just the really, really super gimmicky matches really bother me.
Yeah, they always do. For your Christmases and your Halloweens and Thanksgivings, they always try to do like we're gonna set up a bunch of junk around the ring, and tossed into a punch bowl and have a pumpkin stuck on their head and all sorts of other ridiculous garbage.
Pretty much, that's the best description I've heard of it probably ever.
I mean, they're the kinds of matches where I feel like there are sometimes when I'm watching wrestling where I have to say to myself, I would be really embarrassed if someone who had never seen wrestling walked in this moment and they thought this represented everything about what I'm watching.
Yeah.
That's one of those moments for me where I'm like, please do not let anyone see me watching this right now. Let them walk in on another part of this.
I feel that, and I've just recently, so I don't watch consistently enough. Sometimes if I get really bored, I'll turn on the review, I'll watch Raw the night after on Hulu or something. That I don't really watch the week to week consistently, but I do watch all the pay-per-views. And so my fiance and I recently, she's been watching with me because I have it on, so she's there, so she might as well just watch it. And so we'll be watching stuff, and she's like, "Okay, what's this? Who's this? What's gonna happen?" And she's like, "Who do you want? Who do you think's gonna win?" And I always have to think, this is who I want to win. Mm-hmm. But then, unfortunately, I'm so in tune with the fact that this is a business and a storyline. I can probably predict the ending of almost any match because of the story and what it's going to do for the story. Unfortunately, I wish I could change things, of course, for a lot of different superstars. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, I will certainly admit there are times when you get swerved and they do something you don't expect. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, like you say, I've been watching wrestling for, oh God, how long has it been now? Almost 30 years. So I mean, there's not a lot that I haven't seen at this point. I mean, I can kind of. I know the beats of the song.
Right.
I know where the music is going for the most part. But I'm still interested in, I'm still interested in seeing a great performance.
Yeah.
So you stick around and you watch anyway. But I can count on a couple of hands how many times I've really been surprised in wrestling.
I can tell you the biggest surprise for me, but we're going to save it for the show, which is starting right now. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of AfroLatinos. This is your co-host, Aubyn.
And Chandler.
That was the most lackadaisical that it's ever been, Channy. That was great. It was really, really great. We are so excited for this episode of AfroLatinos. Today, we have a very special guest with us on the show to talk about the wonderful, crazies at times world of professional wrestling. Today is all about the WWE and the history and the present of the franchise and of the company. We are joined today by Dr. Lowery Woodall, a former professor of mine who has agreed so graciously to be on the show. Lowery, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me so much.
I'm very excited. There was I remember the backstory for how Dr. Lowery and I met. I was a student in my freshman year, which feels like forever ago, at Millersville, and he was my professor in public speaking. And I don't even remember why I was in your office that day, because it was probably a requirement. I don't know, because I felt pretty confident in my speech writing abilities that I didn't feel like probably I would have needed to go, but I don't know. So I don't know why I was there, but by happenstance, I ended up in your office and saw the posters and things around the room and just got really excited. And the inner nerd and wrestling nerd and fan came out in me. I was like, oh my gosh, there's stuff on the walls that's wrestling related. And then we spent a good number of time in that office that day talking about wrestling and everything that you've known. And so it is just amazing that you're here, and your name came into my mind and sent you the email, and you're here. So I'm super excited for this episode.
Yeah, no, man. And I remember that day, I would be lying if I said I remembered exactly why you had come in. But I do remember, we had a conversation about pro wrestling and specifically about the possibility of creating a pro wrestling club on campus. And although that particular idea did not come to fruition on that day, I'm so always excited to talk to anyone else about the business. Anytime I find someone else who watches and is interested in it, you kind of gravitate towards those people, because it's like, we share this incredible thing that so many people that you meet, you just don't. I'll put it like this: you don't run into a lot of people in higher education who are huge wrestling fans. There are some, but you don't run into a lot.
Yeah. So tell the audience kind of who you are and where you come from, and your introduction into the wrestling world, if you will, and then that's how we'll start the show. So go right ahead and tell the people.
Yeah, sure. So I'm an associate professor over at Millersville University. I teach in the media arts production program over there. So I teach a lot of production classes in both radio and television. I also do a lot of classes that have to do with communication theory. I've taught some specialty classes that have to do with things like food and culture in communication, sex, love, and relationships in communication. I taught a professional wrestling class and tied that into communication theory. I have a bachelor's degree from Sam Houston State University. I have a master's and a PhD from the University of Southern Mississippi. I am currently writing a book called Grappling with Diversity that looks at issues of race, gender, ethnicity, and their role and in terms of their representation in professional wrestling. And I am the current treasurer of the Professional Wrestling Studies Association, which is a group of scholars from all across the world that dedicate ourselves to the study of professional wrestling as an art form.
I got to tell you, there's nothing, we talked a little bit about this pre-show, but there's nothing that excites me more than talking about diversity issues and all that those entail. And I hate reading. But this is a book that I am so interested in and will definitely be purchasing once it's out. So please keep me updated so that I can purchase and read that, because that will be first on my bookshelf that is rather empty. Actually, my bookshelves right now hold my shoes, because that's how much I don't like reading.
You can see behind me what I use my bookshelves for. I'll try to do an audio version of the book for you. So yeah, I've been studying race and representation and otherness in media for most of my career. My dissertation was on the representation of race in superhero comics, and I wrote a book along with a colleague of mine that looked at representations of race and ethnicity in the Joss Whedon verse. I my feelings on Joss have changed tremendously over the years because of some of the things that have come out about him. But I didn't know that when I was writing the book. But it looked at issues of representation in things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel and Firefly and Dollhouse, things like that.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So while we're on the topic of wrestling, because that's what this whole show is about, what do you remember as being your introduction to the world of professional wrestling?
Yeah, sure. So I absolutely remember exactly when I was introduced to pro wrestling. It was November of 1990. I had gone to my aunt's house for Thanksgiving, and my uncle was there, and I forget where my mom had gone, but I believe that they kind of left me in the care of my uncle for a little while, and he just needed something to sort of occupy my time. And he had illegally recorded the 1990 Survivor Series off of pay-per-view. And so he was like, "Hey, listen, kid, here's this thing. I think you're going to really like it. Let me put this on for you." And didn't really explain to me what wrestling was or, what to expect from it. He just kind of put it on. And, it was one of those things. I feel like I was just hooked immediately. Full disclosure, the 1990 Survivor Series is one of the worst shows of all time. I do not recommend it to you, but at 8 years old, I thought it was great. So Chris Benoit, not Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, big difference there, said in an interview once when he talked about why people like pro wrestling, he said it's the sort of thing where if you get it, no explanation is necessary, and if you don't, no explanation is ever going to be good enough. That's really how I felt when I watched that. Was when I was watching that first show. Was it just sort of all the light switches went off. I just immediately felt like I understand this. I get where it's coming from. The characters are interesting. I feel connected to it, and I was off and running. And I haven't missed anything since. So I've been watching since November of 1990.
Wow. Chaney, what about you? Do you remember the first time you were ever introduced to? I know for me growing up, I feel like wrestling was always really big in my grandparents' house. Well, in my dad's family side, that is. And I seem to remember a story that my dad told me, and I don't know if it's true. I might be making it up, or maybe he was making it up. But I feel like his mom at one point was super into wrestling too when they were growing up in the Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant era. And the story in my head is that either my grandmother or my father was at the match where Andre the Giant was body slammed the very first time. And so it was always on TV. I always remember watching it and practicing all the moves, even though there's an explicit instruction never to do this stuff at home. The first thing you do with your cousins when you're around, we're choke slamming each other. We're trying to figure out if we can hit Triple H's pedigree. We're trying to do everything that we can that we're not supposed to be doing. And we had a great time. And, we were always allowed to fight until the rule was the first one to cry gets a whooping. And unfortunately, I was the youngest of the three cousins, and I was we're all born in the same year, but I was the youngest and the smallest. And so I was always the first one to cry and always the first one to get a whooping. So it was just easier to not get into the wrestling, but it never stopped me. So I've been watching for a long time. Chaney, yourself?
I don't think I remember when I started liking it. I just remember growing up playing all the WWE games and just knowing that I liked it. I remember knowing that I liked it when I was 6, I think, ish. But yeah, that's it. I don't remember I like that. I don't know if I grew up really watching it because I kind of did WrestleManias and all the big events where I definitely watched, and sometimes SmackDown and Raw during the week, right before I went to bed or something. As soon as it was over, it's all right, now it's time for you to go to bed. So I was like, all right.
I remember those. There are matches and instances in my memory that I remember that stood out as points when I was watching the show where such a bad storyline. Do you remember the storyline where Vince McMahon blew up in the car bomb?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching that episode and being like legitimately distraught because I was still young and didn't understand that it was all production. And I was like, oh my God, not Vince McMahon. And then to see him like 2 weeks later was like, oh, so that was that was poorly timed. And I remember the first pay-per-view I ever watched, which I was actually, I think I was in high school. The first pay-per-view I ever watched was the WrestleMania where The Undertaker lost the streak, which for me was the worst thing to have ever seen because The Undertaker's, I never thought that they would do that. And it served nothing, I feel like, in my personal opinion, because I hate Brock Lesnar. I hate the part-timing aspect of a lot of these legends and things that come back and then just show up and win a championship and have it just for 2 episodes, or they wrestle for a month and then they're gone for 6 years and then they come back. That part-timing aspect really bothers me. And so I was like, Brock Lesnar, he's never going to stick around forever. So why lose the streak now? And then for him to lose to Roman Reigns again, it was just like, that was the one thing that everyone had to look forward to. And I was so disappointed. I remember the first house show that I went, it was actually while I was at Millersville. The first house show I went, my parents had bought me tickets to a SmackDown recording at the Hershey Giant Center. And I remember going, and I remember the feeling of being in there was super cool. And then to realize that I was not going to hear absolutely anything except the actual sounds of the match happening was really, really disappointing. I'm like, wait, I can't hear all the fun commentary. And then I realized that stuff is just for TV. It's not for anyone else, because it's the same thing that happens at at a football game. The first time I went to a football game, I was like, I want to hear the stuff that they're talking about. That stuff interests me while I'm watching. This takes all the fun out of it for me. But so there's little moments in time that I can remember, but it's always been something that I've always enjoyed, and definitely played the video games. I don't think I've missed since I have been able to buy my own games. I remember SmackDown versus Raw, Here Comes the Pain, featuring ECW. I think that was 2009. All these games that stand out. I remember playing on the PlayStation 1. What was that one? I think Raw is War. Is that the name of the game? I think I had that for the PlayStation 1. So I've been around the world of wrestling for a long time, but there's certain matches and things that stand out in memory as things that drew me in and really connected to the story. So
there's with regard to the thing where Vince was supposed to get blown up in the car. A couple of interesting things there. So Paul London, if you go back and watch the video of Vince doing that long walk down the backstage area before he gets in the vehicle, Paul London actually got fired that night because everyone was told, you're supposed to line up and you're supposed to have these really somber looks on your face because something's wrong with Vince and no one can quite figure out what it is. That's the storyline. And Paul London is smiling in the video as Vince walks by him, and he saw it in the playback and he was like, bring me this guy, he's fired. So that's why Paul London doesn't work for the WWE anymore. But it was also really interesting because, that was supposed to be the way they wrote Vince off of TV. Vince was getting older and he didn't want to be on TV anymore. He wasn't really in a place where he could physically wrestle consistently. And so that they thought, this is a really, what have you. And then Chris Benoit had the murder-suicide only a few weeks later, which is why Vince had to come back on the air, which completely screwed up this angle that they had. I mean, they built that angle over several months. It wasn't just like you turned on Raw one night and, hey, Vince is acting squirrely and he blows up in a car. Mm-hmm. That was like months and months of build that they had done. And so, it pales in comparison ultimately to the much greater tragedy, of course, of Benoit. But from a wrestling history standpoint, it's kind of interesting to look back on it and say, where might they have gone with this angle had it not been for the fact that this horrible event happened, and then Vince had to completely, drop kayfabe altogether and just be like, look, a horrible thing happened. We're never going to mention this man again on television for as long as we live.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that I remember that. And I thought that's what I didn't want to be wrong, but I thought that's why the storyline ended the way that it did. And that to this day, I still am so shocked that that happened and all that entailed. I enjoyed him as a wrestler. And but yeah, it was sad.
Yeah, Benoit was excellent as a wrestler. I mean, it's who watched him his entire career practically. Because I was a fan of him as an in-ring competitor. I mean, I thought he was great, and it was shocking and devastating. When that happened. I was in grad school back when that occurred, and yeah, I mean, there was just nothing about who he was as a person, what you knew publicly anyway, of who he was as a person that would have prepared you for it. So I remember it really just completely throwing me. This is, I was used to the idea that wrestlers died young. I was used to the idea that wrestlers often had skeletons in their closets. But this was a whole different level of that than what you were used to.
Well, moving on from a tragic circumstance, because let's go talk about something a little bit happier. So, in your time, and this is a question for everyone who's here, what is, or who rather, is your superstar that you just loved? What is your favorite superstar? It can be a tag team, any type of. It can be a faction. Or a stable, anything like that. But who is your guy or girl in the WWE in the history of more like myself? I am drawn to the high flying, super acrobatic people over the powerhouses. And so, in your opinions, what are you drawn to in a superstar? What interests you most about a superstar's abilities, and who is your favorites? Or are your favorites in history?
Chandler, you want to go first?
You can go ahead since you're the guest.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that. Sure. I mean, it's a tough question to answer, right? In terms of what attracts me to a particular performer, I mean, I would say I like someone who understands the psychology of what they're doing in the ring. I like someone whose actions are intentional to the storytelling of the moment. It's not just that you're a great wrestler. It's not just that you're technically great, but that everything you do from the minute you step into the ring is designed to help further tell that story as you go along. And I also really appreciate it when someone is not just there we go. We're back, I think. I like it when someone's not just good in the ring, but also that they are able to make the person they're in the ring with better because they're with them. That to me is a sign of someone who's really excellent at this. I mean, in 1990s Shawn Michaels, I don't care who you put him in the ring with. He was going to get a good match out of them. And they might not like the way that he did it. He was not a nice human being at the time, but he was going to drag a good match out of you, whether you knew you had it in you or not. 1980s Ric Flair, very much the same way. It was, it was just something that he was able to do. Yeah. I mean, supposedly there is footage somewhere of Ric Flair having a match against Elegante, who would go on to be Giant Gonzalez in the WWE. If you've never seen a Giant Gonzalez match, imagine that you dressed an 8-foot broom up in wrestling gear and then put it in the middle of the ring. That was essentially his level of talent. Apparently a super nice guy. I mean,
his ring gear was trash.
I've never heard anything bad about him as a person.
On Tuesdays we have a show. It's a trivia show, And Tuesday's night trivia was all about wrestling, and the question was, who is the tallest WWE superstar in history? And Chaney's never seen or heard of Giant Gonzalez before, and I showed him the picture. And every time I look at it, I'm just like, what were you thinking? And I said, his body must have been one of the worst who have ever stepped in the foot of a ring, because for them to cover him in that bodysuit with the hair in super random places, the fur, it just nothing about the character and the outfit made sense. I just didn't get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was it's some of the worst ring gear I've ever seen in my life. It's atrocious.
I'd rather see the Boogeyman, who I actually liked a lot, but
I gotta tell you honestly, if you've seen Elegante work, the ring gear is better than his work. So it goes up in quality based on how terrible his actual work was. But supposedly Flair got like a 3-star match out of him. Like he pushed into a 3-star match somehow, which I imagine is just, Elegante stands in the middle of the ring and Flair bounces around like a pinball for him. You're going to hit me and I'm going to fly. I'm just going to fly around and you just stand there. But yeah, I like guys who can make the people they're in the ring with better because they're in. Question, I apologize.
That's all right. So you mentioned 1990 Shawn Michaels, 1980s Ric Flair. Are there any current superstars that you're drawn to that fit that mold?
Guys who I think make people better by being with them. I think Johnny Gargano really makes everybody he wrestles better. He's fantastic. I don't think that Roman makes people better by being in there with him, but I do think that Roman as a heel is one of the best characters that they have right now. I mean, I think he's doing incredible work as a heel. Daniel Bryan is fantastic. I mean, Daniel can make anybody look good.
I've heard good things about Dolph Ziggler. How do you that he is a really hard worker and ends up being pretty decent matches pretty much against anyone he's up against.
He's the best overseller I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, he's definitely great at overselling. I mean, he oversells just about as well as Vince McMahon did to the Stunner.
And The Rock, with every time he gets stunned, yeah.
The most hilarious videos of my life, and I just enjoy watching them, because if you watch like Kevin Owens, who right now is doing the Stunner, I don't know why they switched his powerbomb, his pop-up powerbomb, but he's doing the Stunner now, and you don't see people selling like that. There's something about that Stone Cold Stunner, man, that just took him out.
I think Dolph is a really good worker. I feel bad kind of for Dolph in his career, because I feel like he missed. There was a window of time where Dolph could have become a legitimate main eventer, and they almost pulled the trigger on that. And at this point in his career, I mean, it's just clear that's never going to happen. So, he's going to make it through the rest of his career, only ever having been an upper mid-card guy. And I don't think that's entirely fair to him. I don't think he deserves that, but I also don't think that Dolph Ziggler is one of the all-time great wrestlers that's out there. I think Dolph Ziggler, to me, almost suffers from being too big of a fan of what he's doing. When I watch a lot of his matches, I see him emulating other people who came before him, and it almost becomes, it's kind of, to me, like watching a tribute band. Like they play the hits of these other great wrestlers really, really well, but does he know who he is? Does he know what his own unique identity outside of those people is? And I'm not convinced that he ever fully developed that personality, or at least articulated it as well as he could have to the audience. A lot of very, very good matches. He's had a perfectly good career. That's where it ends for me, right? If there was a hall of the really good, he would be in it. But
Well, I don't. He'll probably end up in the Hall of Fame because it seems like all you had to do in being a Hall of Fame is just be there, to have been present at some point in time, and to have won anything, at least 4 matches in your career, and you probably making the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, because it just seems like everyone is able to make it in. There are not a lot of people who I look at and say, oh yeah, you're, definitely I would consider you a Hall of Fame caliber superstar. They're the obvious, the Iron Sheiks. Batista is inducted. Was he inducted this year? He was supposed to, I think.
I believe he was supposed to be, but I don't. He was not featured in the Hall of Fame ceremony they just did. I think that part of what that was that he was supposed to keep his mouth shut about the fact that he was being inducted until they announced it. He let the cat out of the bag a little early, and then they got frustrated with him about that. So I don't know if maybe that means we see him next year in the Hall of Fame instead, or what the fallout there is. But yeah, look, I mean, the WWE Hall of Fame is it's not exactly like the NFL Hall of Fame, or it's really meant to represent the very best of the best. It serves much more political purposes for them, So it's hard for me to get too upset with the Hall of Fame for the WWE, because I have to recognize what they're trying to achieve with it and kind of accept it for what it is. There are definitely people in there that I would not put in the Hall of Fame. But, I kind of had to just let it roll off my back, because it is what it is.
But is Doink in the Hall of Fame?
I don't remember if Doink is in there or not. I don't think that Doink is in there, but I mean, there are plenty of people in the Hall of Fame who, I mean, look, it becomes questionable, right? There are a lot of guys in there who are good, but maybe not great, and you have the whole celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame, which is a completely other issue in and of itself.
Yeah.
I think they do a good job with their legacy picks. They bring in some really good legacy members to the Hall of Fame, but you got to think, if they're going to put you in the Hall of Fame, there are a couple of things they'd really like to have. They'd like you to be alive, first of all, so you can actually go there and accept the award. So that's going to take a lot of people out of contention.
Yes.
And then they're trying to meet certain things. They want to try to always have like a headliner. They like to try to have like a sub main event person. They like to maybe have a tag team in there every year, or a faction. So, when you start putting all these qualifications on it above and beyond talent, certain people are going to get eliminated. You can't get everybody in there that you'd like to. And of course, some people aren't in there just because Vince doesn't personally like them. I mean, Demolition is not in the Hall of Fame because they are in the middle of litigation with the WWE,
which is a tragedy.
Right. Are they a great tag team? Yeah, they were a great tag team. They should be in there, but they're not going to be.
Yeah. Or you get like this year, there's definitely a political reason why the Great Khali was inducted, because certainly over his short career in WWE, there are really nothing he did that stands out as, incredible work to be put in the Hall of Fame. But there's criteria, like you said, that have to be met, and certain boxes that they need to check for, So that's.
Yeah, well, listen, the WWE has been trying to crack India as a territory for a long time, because, that's
Jinder Mahal and
for them.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the number of people that live in that country that are potential viewers, potential fans, universe members. That's a huge deal for them, and certainly they hoped that Khali would become a big enough superstar that he would really break that country for them. I don't believe he really worked to the level that they were hoping he would, but Khali is a legitimate star in India. Like he's a big deal there. Yeah. But yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame largely because they are still trying to capitalize as much as they can on pushing forward into these new territories.
Yeah. Chaney, what about you? The question back to your favorites. I know who your favorite. I think I know who your favorite is. But who are some of your favorites that you're drawn to in WWE history?
Well, first of all, there's a bunch of names in the Hall of Fame that I've never seen in my life. But
I was just
let's
looking
see.
at that.
Edge, Rated R Superstar is probably one of my favorites. Probably top one. Randy Orton. He's like crazy, but I think that's why I like him, just because kind of like that villainy vibe, and yeah, I like villains. Let's see, Rey Mysterio, because he's a flyer, and I really like flyers too. That's why I kind of like Ricochet from this year
I
that he's in the
love
mountain. And he's so underrated, and I feel like WWE just does him so wrong for no reason. So like he can do way much than that, like way better.
It's crazy because, and it's something that you see a lot outside of Rey Mysterio. You don't really see, and Eddie Guerrero, who was a superstar up until his untimely death. Like you have to do things really spectacular as a smaller wrestler for Vince to give you that push. It is clear who he pushes, the type of wrestler that is superstar material in his eyes. And it's unfortunate that people who have just unworldly ability or otherworldly ability, like a Ricochet, who does some stuff I've never seen before, that he doesn't get more pushes. I mean, he won the United States Championship, but even that was a short reign. You know, and maybe he doesn't have great mic work, or maybe there's something behind the scenes that we don't see. But you know, it's a lot of those wrestlers like that, you know, that we enjoy watching, even like a Neville or like an Evan Bourne. You know, they could do really great things in the ring or really flashy, cool things in the ring, but they were never really going to be pushed as a main event superstar. In my opinion, probably because of the size is the way that I look at it.
I mean, they got to be like really good, because Rey Mysterio is like what, 5'7" ish,
Very small,
but it's Rey Mysterio, so you know he's done great things. Jeff Hardy's one of my favorites also, and he's done crazy things. And he also got speared by, he did get speared by Edge, which is one of my favorite moments.
One of my favorite matches in history. That's a great match.
I will say I met Ricochet in, I think it was in Philadelphia. He was at a wrestling convention before he signed with the WWE. He had just, you know, been in Japan and some other places doing work. It's the one that Tommy Dreamer puts on every year, the House of Hardcore event he puts on every year. And I honestly felt bad for the guy when he was at that event, because I mean, they have a ton of people there. They probably had 20 or 30 wrestlers at that, but I mean, there was nobody at the guy's table. I mean, like nobody. It was him and his girlfriend sitting at his table. And, you know, I mean, I went over and talked to him because I had seen, you know, videos of some of the work he'd done in Japan. And I said, look, you know, I mean, dude, you're otherworldly. You know, I mean, you are an insane talent.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to the day that you eventually do get to the WWE and I can see you every week, because, like, you deserve to be there. And, you know, he was a super nice guy, but I mean, I feel like he had a pretty good run in NXT, and you know, Vince just doesn't know what to do with him. I mean, he doesn't know what to do with somebody that's that size that can do those sorts of things. Yeah, it's just out of his wheelhouse.
They're a smart company. I feel like they can figure out what to do with him. They just need to give him the respect that he deserves. He's way too good to just be like a wrestler.
I think that a lot of that will change once Vince really starts to loosen his control. I know that Triple H has a lot of control, and NXT was his baby, and we can clearly see how great of a production and a promotion that is. And that company, that portion of the WWE, puts on great matches. But it's like once they get to the main roster where Triple H has a little bit less control, you know, you can clearly see the disconnect, because in NXT, there's a lot of guys, even like the vaudevillains, who flopped once they reached the main stage. You know, they were huge in NXT, and, you know, Big E had a great run in NXT. Even people like Fandango and Tyler Breeze, who were fantastic and loved by everyone at NXT, once they reached the main roster, unless they're, really, really spectacular and just blow him away, it's just not going to happen.
The storyline that they gave him too is like especially Fandango when he came in. I hated him. I despised him. Everything he did, it was so stupid. I hated it.
He did his job because that's what he was supposed to do.
Exactly. So yeah. So I guess in a way, he did it. He did his job and he did it well. And if we were supposed to hate him, he did it well.
Yeah.
But yeah. And now he has like what? He's like has a partner and they're like a duo.
Him and Tyler Breeze are a duo in there.
Stupid.
And to your point, I mean, there are a lot of guys and women, who are in NXT that couldn't make the jump to the main roster, but they are choosing not to go because they've seen what's happened to a lot of people that get there. I mean, you look at somebody like Adam Cole. I mean, Adam Cole is unquestionably ready to be on the main roster. He's time. As have, quite frankly, most of the other members of the Undisputed Era. Mm-hmm. But Adam Cole didn't want to be on the main roster. Why would he? He is, he's the new version of Shawn Michaels in NXT. Why is he going to go be some also ran on SmackDown? That doesn't serve him. So
like an Io Shirai or like a Mia Yim, and I can't think of her name. She just won. She beat Io Shirai for the championship this week. Rodriguez, what's her name?
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
These stars to me are way more interesting characters and better performers. Like I can't stand Charlotte Flair. I hate the character. I'm not a big fan of her work. She obviously is pushed because of her talent. She has incredible talent, of course, but the name carries so much weight, and with the storylines they put her in are just bad. She doesn't interest me. But she's always going to get pushed over a Mia Yim or someone like that who I think is exceptional. Even like an Asuka. I like her. I'm not a huge fan of Asuka. But she's now, she'll probably lose at WrestleMania. But I don't know. There's a lot of superstars that will never really get the reaction that they deserve and the push that they deserve because I don't know. They don't check enough boxes for Vince.
I was deeply disturbed by the Retribution faction and what they did with Mia Yim and with Dominik Dijakovic, quite frankly. Because both of those, I mean, and I realize there are other people in the faction too, but those two in particular, I thought they had incredible star potential coming out of NXT. I mean, Mia Yim, she could easily be one of the top women in WWE if they had just brought her in doing exactly what she's been doing, And Dominik Dijakovic, I mean, look, good-looking guy. Really, really big guy. I mean, super tall guy that I think could have gotten over. And he had a great program with Keith Lee when they were in NXT together. I thought Keith Lee really pushed him up to the main event star. And then he comes in and they shave his head and they put a mask on him, and I'm just like, what the hell is this? The entire
Retribution angle is really, they're just trying to garner the success of the Nexus, which was the best they're ever going to get. They're never, no matter how many times they try and recreate the Nexus in that invasion, because they tried to do the same thing with SmackDown. With I think Wade Barrett was in charge. Wade Barrett was the Nexus originally, and then
he was the original. He was the original
had one on SmackDown.
So Wade was the original captain, and
he joined or whatever.
There was Nexus, and then there was the Core that came out.
That's the one. Yeah.
Okay.
Black going around and doing stuff for absolutely no reason was so stupid. And I like Mustafa Ali. I think he's an incredible talent, and they're wasting his career. Again, another superstar who has all this talent, and they don't know what to do with him. And it's unfortunate because they're just ruining. And even with the disbandment.
Nice.
Do I keep cutting out?
You do.
Yeah, there are little bits and pieces that are cutting out.
I'm so trying to think of the name of the group. Bobby Lashley and MVP.
Hurt business.
The Hurt Business, breaking them up 2 weeks before WrestleMania. There's no reason for that. There's just absolutely no reason to do something like that. They get something that succeeds, and then they seem to every time. It's unfortunate.
You know, someone who gained my respect in the first WrestleMania back during the lockdown, Drew McIntyre. He got my respect in that.
Grown from
I hated him and 3-man band. It was that I hated 3-man band. It was so, oh my god. And he gave my respect a lot.
He was supposed to be the next big thing, the chosen one by Vince. At least that was the storyline when he was first in WWE. But again, even though, you know, he was destined for whatever, he was still too small really to be a main event superstar. He goes to TNA. He bulks up, and then when he comes back,
big as hell.
He's a brand new person and has this charisma. And even when he's a heel, you know, you were supposed to hate him then when he was a heel at the beginning, but certainly did wonders for him. But Lowery looks like he wants to say something that he doesn't like about Drew McIntyre. So go ahead, right ahead.
No. I mean, I liked Drew a lot. You know, I mean, I think Drew has been. I think he's been very honest about the trajectory of his career. He understands why things went south for him in the WWE. That he sort of, you know, just he stopped caring. You know, I mean, he got beat down. They gave him bad stuff to do, and he let it get to him. But you know, I mean, the time he spent in TNA. Really revitalized him, showed everybody, I think, that he could be a main event star. And I mean, look, you know, I think he's doing really good work. You can tell how much he's improved in terms of his mic work and his character work. And quite frankly, I mean, you know, in the ring, like he's just, you know, he's putting on good quality matches. Yeah, I thought the matches that he had in NXT with Andrade were really good. I was very impressed by those. And I'm quite frankly, P.S. I am very sad to see Andrade leave the WWE, but I understand why he did it.
Agreed. That was another talent gone that probably had a lot more growth in him. And, you know, a push that probably they needed to make a better Alberto Del Rio than Alberto Del Rio ever was.
And a better human being than Alberto Del Rio.
There's a lot of that too. Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, there's a lot of guys like that. Some of my favorites, like Chaney said, Rey Mysterio, Jeff Hardy has always been one of my favorites. I remember watching his documentary when the WWE Network first came out, and getting to watch that just gave me new appreciation for him. Sad that he's carried all these demons so long. I love watching him do what he does. He does a lot of it still now in his older age, and I still appreciate him for who he is and what he's done. Rey Mysterio, who else? Shawn Michaels has always been one of my favorites. Although we just talked about this on Tuesday night. I think these superstars with finishers that you have to wait for, they make me laugh a lot. It's just like Sweet Chin Music. You know, that super kick is fantastic, and everyone always, you know, that's a great move. Funniest thing in the world to me is watching him stand in the corner and do that little stomping thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if you hear that, you know what's coming. Just don't get up.
Right.
Or like
you have to suspend disbelief for a moment and get into the internal logic of wrestling. Yeah.
It's so funny, like the Big Show when he had the knockout punch, or Roman Reigns when he first had the Superman punch and he would get it locked and loaded. Like that stuff cracks me up and is so stupid and takes me immediately out of the moment of what is greatness. But it's just like come on, just don't get up. You know it's coming. You know. Right. But those are some of my favorites. I really liked Sting for a long time. Not the yellow and blue Sting, but when he went to the black and white. I really liked Sting for a long time. This is probably really, it's probably really a bad thing to say.
Oh my God.
It always happens at the most dramatic moments.
I know. I gotta fix this Wi-Fi. I gotta check it out after the show's over. I'm not a big fan of watching like Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior and those guys. Just their matches, and I get it. What the characters and all their greatness and the mic work was super incredible, but I'm just not a big fan of watching their matches. So there's not a ton about the WWF and early wrestling that intrigues me. In the golden era, I suppose is what they consider that time period. It's not a ton that impresses me, but I guess I still appreciate what they've done for the world of wrestling, because certainly we wouldn't be where we are without the likes of them. And those eras, those early eras of wrestling, post like San Martino era, they ushered in these new characters and this new life to wrestling. But I don't know. It's just they're not exciting enough for me.
It says it right there. It's a fact.
Agreed.
The man with 3 H's. We have a Matt Hardy fan in our hands. Is what we have there.
All right. So that was a lot of good conversation. I like that. So let's move on to some interesting. What we're gonna call this? We're gonna play a game. We're gonna play a game of one gotta go. Okay. So in this game, I'm gonna give you a couple different options, and you have to choose which one you would be the most okay with getting rid of. And when we get rid of them, that includes all storylines and anything that they've ever done in the world of wrestling. And the first one that I want to use is from the tag team division. I got 3 choices. Gotta go. All right. The first one is the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, or the Dudley Boys.
One gotta go, you said?
One gotta go. The Hardy Boys, the Dudleys, or Edge and Christian. And this includes all of their work in the WWE that they've done.
That's a tough one, because their careers are so interconnected, right?
That's very true.
No matter who you get rid of here, you're getting rid of all their ladder matches, basically. Well, not all of them, but most of them. So for me, if I had to get rid of one of them, I suppose I would get rid of the Hardy Boys, only because I can't get rid of the Dudleys, because I feel like the Dudleys are one of the best tag teams of all time. So they're automatically safe to me. And I can't get rid of Edge and Christian because Edge's solo career alone is so good that I can't get rid of that. So even though it would pain me deeply to miss out on the Hardy Boys and the great solo runs that both Matt and Jeff have had, gun to my head, I'd go Hardy Boys.
Channy?
Let's see.
I think we're gonna be the same on this answer, Channy.
Shut your mouth. Imagine. So because I'm so young,
sorry, I knew you were
I experienced Edge and Christian. I experienced the Hardy Boys. I know for a fact that the Dudley Boys are good, and I like them. But I would say I didn't watch them growing up or anything, so I don't have anything So I would say the Dudley Boys gotta go.
And agree. I was young enough to see all of them in their primes and to watch the greatness that each of them brought. But for me, it hurts so much to try and get rid of the Hardy Boys. For me, are like my favorite tag team ever, and getting rid of them would I couldn't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. And because of the success, like you said, of Edge and Christian in not only their tag team competition but in their singles careers also, I feel like because the Dudley Boys really didn't have that great of a push, either Bubba or Devon, as a singles competitor. You lose their tag matches, but you don't lose as much from singles competition as you do the others. Edge and his incredible run, even now, you have Christian, who, he had his one World Heavyweight Championship. That was his final thing, but he had some interesting storylines. There were some good times there. Missing out on those matches. Did I cut it out again?
A little bit, but we got it. We get that,
Yeah.
The rivalry that like Edge had with Matt Hardy and the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian, I feel like that in itself was so. They're all three tied together so intricately. Happened there with the real life drama, even outside of the storyline drama. There's a lot of stuff that happens with Lita, all that stuff that you can't get rid of that because they're produced some of the greatest storylines and rivalries that we've seen. So for me, because it's primarily only the tag success that you would be losing for the Dudley Boys, I think I would have to, as much as it pains me, Brother Devon and brother Bubba, was that what they called him? I love them both, but the Dudley Boys got to go for me. All right, the next.
Oh, now we're all thinking.
Are we back?
I choose Bad Bunny. Oh, we're not. You didn't start yet. Okay.
Stupid. All right, the next one. This next.
What is the next one? Oh, yeah.
The four horsewomen, women of WWE, who would be Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch. One got to go from the four of them.
Okay, so hold on, because I only got part of that. So I heard Sasha's in there. I heard Becky's in there. Who are my other two?
Bayley and Charlotte. Charlotte Flair.
Okay.
I already know mine. Go ahead.
That's another tough. And the only reason I didn't say the four horsemen is because I wasn't, and I know Chaney probably doesn't even know who's in the four horsemen, and so I didn't say them because they're too old for Chaney to have been remembered their greatness. And so I didn't.
Which version of them you take, right? I mean, like
who the four horsemen?
The original was Arn Anderson.
Oh, no. You can stop
Arn,
right there. It's okay. I don't know him. So yeah,
you
got
right. Arn, you got Rick, you got Tully, and you got Ole. But I mean, if I could take any of the four horsemen, I mean, there are various versions of the four horsemen. One which included Paul Roma, and he was terrible, and I would happily get rid of Paul Roma. But the world would not be a worse place without him being the four horsemen or what have you. This one's tough, though. I mean, I love all four of these women. I mean, they've been fantastic. I really love Bayley. I think Bayley's been incredibly underrated in both her baby and her heel work. So I can't get rid of her. I mean, Becky Lynch turned a huge corner and became a superstar. I can't get rid of her.
Man.
I know you mentioned that you personally don't care much for Charlotte. I mean, I have a softer spot in my heart for Charlotte. I think she's done a lot of great work. And not to say that I don't really love Sasha as well. I do, but if I have to get rid of one of the four of them, I'm probably getting rid of Sasha.
Tragic.
Tragic and tragic.
I like Sasha, so I mean, I don't really think she's done much.
She hasn't been pushed a whole lot, although she is the champion now, which I think was a great time to pull her away from Bayley. So I love that for her. But anyway.
Yeah. And I, props to Becky. I really like Becky. I think she's really good at what she does. And I also have, I don't know why, but like Charlotte, like I like Charlotte, and I think she's like, and the thing that she has against her dad, and it's like, let her do her, you know what I'm saying? Just I don't know. I think I would say Bayley. I just not a fan of Bayley. I'm sure she's done great work and she's doing her thing, but when she was the champion, it's just she can go.
That's tough. I think making Bayley a heel was the greatest thing that the WWE ever could have done for her, because I don't think she would have been pushed as the babyface and she would not have had as much success as a babyface. But her heel work was great. Although I question why they left. She's not on the WrestleMania card either night. So I don't know what's going on there. If she's like the only woman on the current roster that is not featured tonight. I mean, they're putting Tamina in a match, who really is super disappointing. And her father, before I found out about all of his, skeletons in his closet, was one of my favorite wrestlers. I remember, was it Legends of Wrestling? I think was the game that it was a PlayStation 2 game, and Jimmy Superfly Snuka was always who I gravitated towards. Sad for what's happened in his lifetime, but when you've got a Tamina at WrestleMania and not Bailey, there's got to be something going on behind the scenes that I'm missing. But
yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if maybe they've got some sort of special like situation they're going to do with her, where maybe she does like a run-in or something that's going to be really important somehow. But it does seem it seems antithetical to have someone who's been that big a part of the shows pretty much all year long, and then on the biggest show of the year, she doesn't even have a match. You couldn't find a match for her.
Nothing at all. Yeah,
it's bizarre.
It's very, very, very strange. I think it's pretty obvious who I would be getting rid of. I don't really feel that bad. To be honest with you, I'm not a huge Ric Flair fan in general. So really, she just doesn't do. I don't know what it is about her that I just cannot connect with. Love Sasha. I love that her and Bianca Belair are going to be the first Black women to ever go singles competition in WrestleMania. That means a lot. Even though I wish I could cut Bianca Belair's hair, I think that's really stupid and really.
It's so long for no reason.
There's a whole stereotypical thing that I'm thinking of when that it's a whole thing. But I love the representation. So it is great for them. Bailey, I did not connect with until she was the heel character, so I really love her work there. And again, the man Becky Lynch. Thank God they dropped the steampunk whatever disaster that was, because it was clear that her in-ring work was fantastic, but she just couldn't carry it with that gimmick. That was never going to work. And so that they're in the three of their heel work, I think for me is much more enjoyable to see than Charlotte has ever been for me. So for me, Charlotte's got to go. I just can't bring it in myself to keep her.
I mean, these are tough choices, no matter who you pick.
They certainly are. They definitely are.
In a rough spot. So
I just noticed that you changed spots.
Yeah, I had to change spots because I was running low on my battery power from my computer, so I had to switch to a place where I could plug my computer in.
I didn't see it change. I just now realized that it's not the same anymore.
As soon as we were starting the One Gotta Go, his camera cut out, and then I saw it. I was like, "Oh, what happened? Did he disappear?" And then when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, okay, that's why he had to go somewhere else."
Yeah. I saw I was running low on my battery, and I was like, I gotta be able to plug in, or we're gonna have a rough time.
I promise we're almost done. We're almost there. I got
Not
two.
rushing, don't worry.
I think.
No, I got things to do. You better hurry up.
You'll be all right, Jamie. I don't love this one, and so I think I'm gonna plug in a different red. I just feel like you can't get rid of Undertaker, no matter who you put him up against. So here it is. I'm gonna switch it up. One Gotta Go. Shawn Michaels, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Triple H. And we will not consider Triple H the businessman and owner of WWE, in all of his administrative roles. We'll just stick with getting rid of him as a performer, as a superstar, and not because getting rid of him as a businessman would be tragic, because you would lose pretty much everyone and everything. So we can't get rid of him and all he's done in that aspect, but we can talk about his in-ring work. So Shawn Michaels, Triple H, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
All right. Well, yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, look, I'm not getting rid of The Rock. Extraordinary character work. One of the best people that's ever been on the mic, arguably the best person who's ever been on the microphone. You can't get rid of Stone Cold. I mean, if you got rid of Stone Cold, you'd be getting rid of the Attitude Era, because he's not the person who kicks it off, but I mean, without him, it doesn't survive, right? So I mean, I feel like Stone Cold completely safe. So now we're down to Levesque and Hickenbottom. And I mean, I love Sean, even when he was apparently a terrible human being to be around in the 1990s. Damn entertained to watch, though, so I have a hard time. I have a hard time imagining my life having never seen a Shawn Michaels match. When I imagine my life having never seen a Triple H match, I mean, look, the dude's been in a lot of great matches, but maybe it's because of my age, or maybe it's just because, of this particular style that I like better than one over the other. If I have to pick somebody, I'm picking Paul Levesque and saying, Triple H got to go.
And I completely agree with you on everything you said, so I won't belabor the point. Triple H got to go for me too.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say Triple H, honestly. Yeah.
I feel like we put Triple H in an unwinnable position here.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, the other person that they had in that was The Undertaker. And if you put The Undertaker in there,
I would have said Shawn Michaels.
I mean, how do you because you're not picking him. You're not getting rid of The Undertaker. I don't think that anyone in their right mind would do that. So then it just becomes too hard to get rid of one of those. And that really hurts. Shawn Michaels has had, for me, arguably one of the best careers. I mean, even from his time with Marty Jannetty, and the time when he's switching music them through the glass. I mean, that scene way back when, and him. Now, the only thing that really hurts getting rid of Triple H is getting rid of DX with Shawn Michaels, because those two in that tag team was just absolutely tremendous. There's a million members of DX, but when you think of D-Generation X, you're not thinking of China and X-Pac and Road Dogg. You're just not as good as they are, and as great as each one of them were, and for who they were. You're not doing it. So
was X-Pac really like that? Was he? Because I don't think
not as a singles competitor.
Well, I'm sure if you have your friends, and you do like a tag team match, something's gonna go down good. It's just your friend,
Yeah, I always thought that Waltman was an underrated guy. I don't think he really got the credit he deserved. He had some great matches with Eddie Guerrero in WCW. If you go back and watch some of the latter matches that they had back then, I think you really get a taste for the level of competitor that he could have been if he was allowed to kind of take the shackles off and do things his own way. He's a great wrestler. Just not really given as many opportunities. And I mean, in a world of really big guys, I mean, Sean Waltman was a small man. Like, I mean, he was like, if he was 190 pounds, and I think they officially said he was like 202 or 201 or something. But I mean, that guy was like 170, 180 pounds. I mean, he was small, so it was tough.
I always enjoyed using him in the games, but other than that, not really much of anything. All right, here's the last one. This one gonna be interesting. One gotta go in the faces of Foley.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Mick Foley character are you getting rid of? Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, Dude Love, or Mankind?
Yeah.
You can't get rid of Mankind. I feel like that's a definite stay. You just can't get rid of him.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not just for you have the Rock and Sock connection, and then the moment, the moment in WWE history that everyone probably knows and remembers when he is thrown off the top of Hell in a Cell by the Undertaker. Those two moments, those two groupings alone are enough to keep him.
So I'm going to guess that for both of you, it may be a little bit easier to get rid of Cactus Jack because although he did compete as that character in the WWE, most of the Cactus Jack character was really in WCW, and it may be a little before your time. I was around for the entirety of the Cactus Jack situation, and he was great. He was a great character, and this is one of those things that I think is really hard, even when you go back and watch something on the network. Right? It's hard to appreciate how controversial or how revolutionary something was in that historical moment, because you've seen so much now. You're bringing all of that with you too when you watch it, but to have watched him do that character at that time was really, really groundbreaking. I mean, for me, I think I'd have to get rid of Dude Love. I mean, I appreciated what Dude Love was, and I appreciated that it made Mick Foley so damn happy to do that character. And he deserved that. And I loved Mick so much. I just, Mick could have come out and said he wanted to be any character, and I would have said, listen, you earned it.
Yeah.
You do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with you. But if I have to get rid of one character, I mean, I'm probably gonna get rid of Dude Love. I would argue that you could keep Cactus on the basis of the Vader feud and the ECW work, which really doesn't get enough credit. If you've never watched his ECW interview where he does the Kane Dewey speech, the Kane Dewey interview is a must-watch for every human being that enjoys wrestling.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
I'm looking it up right now. I'm keeping it right there, and I will watch it as soon as this is over.
Dewey is his son, by the way.
Chaney,
I'm gonna go ahead and watch that after also. But out of all of the Mick Foley alters, or I've definitely seen Mankind. I've definitely seen Cactus Jack and then Mick Foley. I've never really watched Dude Love except when he came out 3 different times during the Royal Rumble.
Fantastic, right? That is great. Yes.
Yeah. It's a fantastic moment.
He gets out, goes, and then the music starts playing, and Dude Love goes, and
love it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get rid of. I would say Dude Love goodbye, just because I don't know him like that. I haven't seen any of his Dude Love work, so.
And I'm actually in the same boat. Dude Love is the character that I know the least, and that I've seen the least out of, and so it's pretty easy to get rid of Dude Love. Mankind is one of my favorites. Sacco is, it's a great character. It's what I think they tried to do with Eugene, although that was an unfortunate character also. But they just didn't. It's Chaney, don't you dare. Good old Santino. I think I almost had another one that it just came up in my head, but I'll save that for another day. Before we finish the episode, I think we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't talk a little bit about tonight's WrestleMania, or both nights rather, WrestleMania. So I will list the matches of night 1, which is tonight at 8 p.m. And then we can decide who we're looking forward to the most and who we're looking forward to the least out of this set. I already have my ideas, but tonight we have the WWE Championship match with Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. We have Seth Rollins versus Cesaro, Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon in a cage match so that Shane McMahon can take a bunch of stupid bumps that he doesn't need to do. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus The Miz and John Morrison. We have Sasha versus Bianca Belair. The New Day versus AJ and Omos, who is wasting my life away with that stupid character. And then it just might as well not even be there because I will probably just turn this off. The tag team turmoil match with Lana and Naomi, Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, the Riot Squad, and Natalya and Tamina. For me, that's the easiest one to get rid of. Let's do it this way. One gotta go, all of those matches, and then talk about which one is your favorite. For me, easily I would get rid of the tag team turmoil match. I just don't understand its
What
purpose.
the hell is that? Is that just a bunch of tag team partners?
It's a way of featuring all the women that don't have anything to do with the WWE. They're not important to anything in the storylines right now, and they just wanted to put women on the card, so they just match against each other.
Yeah. Well, the winner of that match is going to then face Nia and Shayna Baszler for the tag titles on Sunday. That's
the winner. The winner of this will lose tomorrow. Is basically what happened. So it's going to mean nothing at the end of the day.
Yes, that is fair. So I mean, I talked a little bit about this before we kind of got started. I mean, the build to the Braun Shane match is one of the laziest builds I've ever seen in my life.
Agreed.
I'm not even saying it's the worst build I've ever seen in my life. It's the laziest. I feel like they must have spent all of about 5 seconds coming up with this in the writers' room. And I just have nothing invested in this match. I mean, look, you're absolutely right in the fact that this is the only reason that this match is going on is so that Shane can get on the card and he can have his moment
that he doesn't need to be doing. Yeah.
Right. I have no interest in the match. I mean, I don't necessarily know that it's going to turn out to literally be the worst match on the card, but it's the one that I care the least about, so I could do without it.
Channy, yourself? One gotta go.
I'm actually interested in finding out what the heck that tag team turmoil thing is gonna be. So I just want to see. Shut up. I just want to see. I'm just interested in seeing what's gonna happen, and if it gets boring, then I'm just, easy. So I'm interested in that. So I'm not gonna say that. I don't care for Shane, honestly. I've never I don't know. I kind of watched some of his matches and whatever, growing up, you see him here and there. I think he was I didn't think he was that important, so I'll probably get that one. I don't care for that one can go. There you go. Easy. I do like Braun though. But
the storyline is really, really bad. I mean, you're right. It took them probably all of about 30 seconds to come up with that idea. I mean, to start with him calling him stupid. And even, I like Braun. I think he's done a lot of good work after the Wyatt family that kind of dispersed. And he kind of came into his own as a competitor. But the train noises for the Strowman, they're just doing some stuff. Like, I don't know what's going on over there, but
that's something that's just started in the last few weeks. And when they started, the first time they did it, I honestly thought it was a mistake. I thought like someone in the back had hit a button incorrectly. And I was like, oh my God, how embarrassing that this has occurred. And then when they did it 2 or 3 times, I realized, oh no, they think this is getting over. They think this is a thing. It's, I don't know. I just, when all you've got is, I want you to go out there and call him stupid, and then we'll have a match.
Yeah.
That's fine if you're trying to build, it's the beginning of a SmackDown or a Raw, and you want to build to a match that's going to happen that night. Fine. That's an okay build. For the biggest show of your entire year, that's what you have. I mean, maybe I'm just too old and cynical at this point, but
you're absolutely right. What of those, the rest of the matches on night one, what is the most exciting one to you? Which one do you look forward to the most?
I am looking forward to Bianca and Sasha. I think they're going to put on a great match. I think they're both really, really invested in this match and seeing it go well. And I think it's going to be a kind of coming out party for Bianca. I think she takes the belt tonight, and and she deserves it. She's fantastic. She was fantastic in NXT. She's fantastic on SmackDown. When she was on NXT with Charlotte, and she told her, "You don't go here," You know, I mean, like I was immediately like, well, that's a damn t-shirt right there. I mean, you just made a t-shirt in the moment.
I appreciate that they didn't bring her up and just attach her as the manager of the primetime. No, not the primetime players. That's that was Darren Young, the Street Profits, because Montez Ford is her husband. But they let her be her own person and have an identity of her own, which is fantastic. So
yeah,
Chaney,
I know you're most excited for the bad match.
Let me speak. I'll speak for myself. So Bad Bunny, no. I mean, I am excited for that, absolutely, but I think I would say the Drew McIntyre one. I think I'm excited for that one because it was so I hated the way that ended. They just he was getting his butt whooped, pulled through one. It's exhausted, tired. This man just comes out of nowhere, starts beating him up, and somebody gets it. Like the Miz, out of all people, the Miz.
Only to lose it the next night, so that was really frustrating. To take the belt away from Drew McIntyre, who was having a fantastic run, to give it to the Miz to lose the next night is, again, pretty poor writing. Even to throw Bobby Lashley into a feud with Drew McIntyre. Bobby Lashley is not a super exciting performer to me. So I have a hard time. And for him to have the Master Lock as his, Chris Masters did it better. So for him to have,
it's where the Master Lock came from. But
I mean, it's not really, but
it's called a Master Lock, Aubyn.
Well, that's not what the actual name of the movie.
Well, it doesn't matter.
But Chris Masters certainly did it better. And I connect with that move way more than I would, as the submission move that he uses now. I mean, he's a good competitor. I feel like they could do better. They could give him something that's a little bit more exciting. Of course, the spear was his, and that to me still is only exciting by a few people. So
yeah, and Roman, Dominator,
Goldberg, and Edge.
The match that I'm excited for is actually not a championship match. I'm really excited for Seth Rollins and Cesaro. I hate Seth Rollins character, the Messiah character, although he's doing a fantastic job with it. I hate it. And Cesaro is one of the most underrated wrestlers to me. And the only thing I can imagine, I mean, I'm sure that Seth Rollins needs this to push himself back into championship contention. But I feel like this could finally be the match if Cesaro is able to win, if they give him the win, to really push him right into main event contention, because I think he deserves it. I think he's proven, although I wish they would get rid of the swing, although it's a great gimmick and is funny to watch sometimes, he can do so much better than that. If they gave him something to actually use his strength, if they gave him the neutralizer back as his only, something like that. But I think that those two in-ring competitors are great workers and that they will have a fantastic match and probably will have one of the better nights of the show or matches of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Messiah was the one who fought Rey Mysterio for the eye thing, right?
Thing with Aleister Black took him out. I'm excited for Aleister Black. I hear he's on his way back, so maybe he'll have an eye again. I don't know how they're gonna work that. I mean, they just kind of dropped it with Rey Mysterio. His eyes are fine now. I think did they open up his mask again? I know they had closed the one eye.
Yeah, they opened it back up. Yeah.
Suddenly he's fine. So when I feel so bad.
They put it back in, and it just works.
I feel so bad for what they've done to it. I feel like this time period right now, I mean, I get they're trying to help Dominic, who really doesn't excite me either, but he's such a legend in WWE and all the things that he's done have been fantastic. That what they've done, that whole feud is just the dumbest thing in the world. They added the storyline with his daughter, and that really flopped, and they took that away with Murphy and all of this stuff that's happened with Mysterio. Nothing is stuck, and it's.
I look forward to Dominic's heel turn, though.
You think it was good?
I think that when he inevitably turns heel and he starts having matches with his dad,
is that what it's going to be? You think?
I'm pretty sure that's where this is going. Yeah, it's just a matter of time.
That's cool. Imagine growing up watching your dad being in WWE, and now you're just
Literally,
fighting with him.
I mean, there's literally matches of him like as a kid in the audience, and it's great. It's like LeBron with his dad. You know, when LeBron and Bronny finally go head to head, 1-on-1.
I don't think LeBron's gonna be there for that long, bro.
You gotta imagine Bronny's what, a junior. He's got to be close to a senior, and he's only going to go to college for 1 year. That's all you need to get to the
If LeBron plays until 43 like Vince Carter, I think he'll play against Bronny.
I think he will play
at the pace that he's going. He'll play till he's 50. So
he's going to play till he's dead. So at this rate, because he's just the best at managing his body, and he's great. So I just can't wait to see that. So what's up, Kyle? Thanks for joining. And all right, so that's night 1. Now night 2 for tomorrow. What?
There's more?
There's another night tomorrow.
You forgot about night 2. That's nothing. He's like, I thought it was just night 1.
All right, so here's the card for night 2. Again, we're gonna do one gotta go and what match we're looking forward to the most. So here's the card. We have Roman Reigns, Edge, Daniel Bryan. We have the Fiend versus Randy Orton. We have Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. We have Big E versus Apollo Crews, Riddle versus Sheamus, Sami Zayn with Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens, and then the tag team championship for the women, which is Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus whoever wins the tag team turmoil match.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose I'm going to have to take the tag team title match as the thing that I would throw out. I mean, I just, I feel like Shayna is being wasted in all of this.
Agreed.
She was so fantastic in NXT, and now it's just sort of like she's any other person, any other woman on the roster, and she should be so much more than that. So about the only thing that's going to save that match for me is if the other 4 horsewomen for Shayna come out during that match and they just destroy the entire ring.
Yeah.
And stand there and go, this belongs to us now. And that's not going to happen.
Maybe Bayley will do that. Maybe Bayley will come out, and maybe that's what they're saving her for, doing something crazy. Maybe
so. So that's kind of my gotta go. In terms of things I'm looking forward to most, I mean, I suppose it's the Roman Edge, Daniel Bryan match. I think that's going to be a really great match. All 3 guys are excellent. Edge wants this really badly. Daniel's not going to allow the match to be bad, and like I said, I mean the quality of work that Roman is doing right now is really the best of his career to me.
I definitely think that giving Paul Heyman, letting Brock go and putting Paul Heyman with the Roman Reigns really revitalized him as a character. But yeah. Chaney, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I can go, but I'm going to need you to read them again because I didn't hear a word you said.
So you've got Roman Reigns, Edge, Daniel Bryan, The Fiend versus Randy Orton, Asuka versus Rhea Ripley, Big E versus Apollo Crews, Riddle versus Sheamus, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, and the tag team match with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus whoever wins tonight.
I'll probably if I can think of the name, the Asuka one. Look, I love what they've done with or like how women's wrestling has evolved since 2000s or whatever, what it used to be, which was not great, but I like it a lot. This past couple of times that I've seen it and stuff like that, it's so much better. But I just don't want to see Asuka. I don't care. I probably will just because it'll be playing, but I'm not gonna pay attention. So I'll let that one go.
And your favorite match of the night?
I'll probably say Randy Orton and Fiend. But if it turns into another,
like every single one of them,
Funhouse or whatever, then I'm not watching. Yeah.
Everyone, I like the Fiend character a lot. I think that Bray Wyatt is an incredible. Outside of Husky Harris, that he's done nothing wrong as in the WWE. He's great in every character he plays except for that one. but I want him to have an actual match.
Just like he was fighting John Cena, and it never happened. I'm like, what is this?
He's just doing it's something weird is happening. I want to add that I love Alexa Bliss, and she's doing fantastic work right now. But I just want him to have an actual match and to do something because he's too talented to not be doing anything. It's just dumb.
Yeah, I need to see that kiss on the forehead.
The sister. I'm surprised actually that they left the Sister Abigail with the new character. Although I suppose it is still Bray Wyatt, so I mean it makes sense.
The demon. Yeah. He still kept his the whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
I have a lot of feelings about night 2. There's a lot that I would get rid of from this night. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, of course, I'm not intrigued in that match at all. They're going to have a great match because they're great competitors against each other. They have too much chemistry to have a bad match. But I don't care about it. What I would get rid of the match would be Riddle versus Sheamus. I like Matt Riddle. I don't know why they got rid of Matt. I don't know why that didn't connect and why they dropped it. I hate when they just randomly drop someone's name. I think that's really dumb. And Sheamus is good, but I don't know. It just doesn't interest me. What I really want to get rid of is the Nigerian gimmick of Apollo Crews. Everything about that is annoying to me. It's just dumb. And he's I love his work and his ability. They just have to give him something that's okay. Maybe the Nigerian gimmick isn't awful, like with the colors and everything is great, but just let him be himself. He doesn't have to have an accent just because he's Nigerian. Plenty of people who are Nigerian don't have an accent and don't carry around a big ass spear for no reason. It's just stupid. I wish I could get rid of that.
It feels like Kofi Kingston in reverse.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Which is
Jamaican Kofi Kingston.
Yeah. Aren't you in Triple H? Aren't you supposed to be Jamaican? Yeah.
If he hadn't made that mistake, he'd still be carrying that accent around. I mean, it was only because he made that mistake that one night that they were like, well, we can't go back now.
So that part of that I can't stand. I just wish they would get rid of that. I think like they're gonna put on a good match because they're both good performers. I could get rid of that one. I could get rid of him, or I could get rid of the Riddle versus Sheamus. Either one I'm fine with. I'm intrigued to see Asuka versus Rhea Ripley to see if they really do give Rhea the championship and give her a push. I feel like that would be good. I feel like the tag team turmoil will end in turmoil, and that this might break up Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. And I could see us getting a Shayna Baszler and Rhea Ripley match soon, which would be incredible. I don't know. There's a lot that I would change. Not a lot I'm looking forward to tonight or on tomorrow night. Of course, the triple threat match is just so intriguing, and seeing what happens and who will finally come out of that as the winner. But not a ton tomorrow night that I'm excited for. Much more excited for tonight. So, all right. Any final opinions? This has been a lot of fun. We talked about a lot of great stuff, and I feel like this needs about 3 more episodes to really crack into everything that we can.
I have one more opinion.
Yes.
I am also looking forward to the Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryan fight.
Yes, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if there's one thing overall that I'm looking forward to on Mania more than anything else, it's seeing a live crowd. Seeing a live crowd for the first time in over a year at an event. I think this is gonna. No matter how good or bad the in-ring product is on these 2 nights, this is going to be one of the hottest crowds that we've seen in a very, very, very long time.
Yeah,
and that by itself is going to make this a really enjoyable experience.
Well, and the only downside is if one of these matches, doesn't go over well, it's really not going to go over well because
they're going to let you know.
Yeah, it is going to be atrocious because there's going to be way too many people there who are really excited to see wrestling for the first time in forever. And they will be sorely disappointed if one of these matches does not go the way they thought, or if it just ends up being a real stinker of a match. They're going to let them know.
Do you think they're going to do like how they do with like NBA and like any other? They do like the 6 feet apart thing, and then like
Oh, they're
not gonna be up close to the thing.
They're in Florida at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium. So Florida has no rules and hasn't the entire pandemic. So
You're right.
it doesn't really matter. They're just gonna all be there.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's close to 50,000 tickets they've sold for this thing. So I mean, it's going to be huge.
There are going to be a lot of people. Damn.
They're in a football stadium, so I mean, there's gonna be plenty of space to spread them out. But still,
I'm excited now that they have people there. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so much better.
All right. Well, this has been great. Lowery, thank you so much for being willing to join us and taking up a lot of your time. I know we've taken more than we intended, but thank you so much for being willing to come on the show. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been my pleasure. And, be happy to come back some other time if you guys want to talk wrestling.
All right. I'm excited. We'll do that.
Next big main event. We'll fix something up.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
We will definitely be in touch. Hey, and that Pro-Am team, we're still,
I mean, I'm scouting. I'm just watching, so
you have to send me your PlayStation info.
Will do. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. This has been another episode of AfroLatinos. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and anywhere digital podcasts can be found. Check us out Tuesday nights for Tuesday nights for You Think You Know, Thursdays for Juguemos, Friday for AfroLatinos and Amigos, and of course the good old Saturday podcast, AfroLatinos. This has been your co-host Aubyn.
And Chandler.
Have a good day, everybody.
And Ruby.